Hey everyone, I'm Megyn Kelly. Welcome to the Megyn Kelly Show. Okay, so it is Tuesday, October 21st, and Karine Jean-Pierre is a black woman. Just want you to know that. She's black. Starting every interview she's giving to promote her big book by saying, I'm black, I'm a black woman. I am never giving an interview again without saying, I'm white. I just want to start this interview by noting I have white skin. Think about it. She's such an absurd person. We know. We have eyes. Like she got white hair and now she thinks we're confused. We know you're black. It's fine. You get a gold star. All right. Like, what is your point? By the way, just because you're black doesn't make you the spokesperson for black people, because that seems to be how she's using it. Like, I, as a black woman, now speak for black people. No, you don't. You don't. There's a lot going on today. We're really looking forward to getting to the Karine Jean-Pierre piece of it for you. But we also have a great report that we have literally been working on for over a year. We've got it boiled down to just its essentials, and it's on the insane radical environmental agenda that was approved under Joe Biden that President Trump is pulling back, has decimated when it comes to those grotesque failures they call wind turbines. Those things are going down, and we have an investigative report we've been working on, a bit of a surprise, and then Congressman Jeff Van Drew, who's been all over this stuff and who we have to thank for the end of these things. He's going to join us at the end of the show. So we're looking forward to that. But first, we have found even more crazy moments from the No Kings rallies where the left once again shows how comfortable it is with violent rhetoric aimed at conservatives. And then there's Karine Jean-Pierre. She's giving Kamala Harris a run for her money. Doug and I, this morning, we were listening to AM Update, our morning podcast that we release on our podcast feed. Thank you all for making it a hit. Doug and I listened to it, even though I know it's on there. It's fun for me to listen to it, too, with all the sound bites inserted, because I don't get to hear all of those in advance. I see them like transcribed on the script, but I haven't heard all of them necessarily when I tape it. Anyway, we sit there with our coffee, which is how I picture you guys listening to it. And we listened to it like before we started the day. And he was listening to this Karine Jean-Pierre soundbite that we ran on it this morning. And he said, there should be some sort of a calculator, like how many words in every sentence actually have meaning? You know, like what's your percentage? And you should get rated as a public speaker for what your percentage is. You know, it should be at least over 90% should have use, have some utility, should be driving toward a point. We both agreed Karine Jean-Pierre is probably around the 10% level in every sentence. Only about 10% of her words are necessary. And then we had a debate about who would be lower on this scale, Karine or Kamala. And we both settled on Kamala, definitely. But KJP giving her a run for the money for the worst book tour and worst promotion around it for the year. I mean, perhaps beyond. Since yesterday's show, our show, KJP has been on Colbert, Morning Joe, and The View, and you may not believe the lies coming out of her mouth. I mean, truly, she's managed to stun even us. Here to react to all of this and more is Stu Burguiere. He's host of the BlazeTV's Stu Does America. Don't miss a moment. Subscribe to this show on YouTube and follow me on Insta, Facebook, and X. Let's be honest, America can still be a dangerous place, and you cannot afford to wait for help if you need it. Sure, you could use a firearm, but in today's America, defending yourself with deadly force could have legal consequences. According to FBI data, 99.9% of all altercations do not require lethal force. And that's exactly why many are turning to Byrna. Byrna is proudly American, hand-assembled in Fort Wayne, Indiana. These less lethal self-defense launchers are trusted by hundreds of government agencies, law enforcement departments, and private security companies. Over 600,000 Byrna pistols have been sold, most to private citizens who refuse to be victims. Byrna launchers fire rock-hard kinetic rounds and also powerful tear gas and pepper projectiles, capable of stopping a threat from up to 60 feet away. No background checks, no waiting periods, and Byrna can ship straight to your door. Take responsibility. Protect your future. Visit Byrna.com right now or your local Sportsman's Warehouse. That's BYRNA.com or your local Sportsman's Warehouse. Visit now and be prepared to defend. Stu, welcome back.
Thank you, Megyn, and thank you for your bravery of hosting a white, straight, cis male on your show.
I'm glad you started with that. Just let's all say our colors. Stu?
My pronouns, I am a white male. I have white skin. My skin color is white. Did you know I'm white?
Mine couldn't be whiter, super white, and I like dudes. Okay, so she won't be stopped, and I have to say, I'm here for it. I'm going to pick the dumbest comment that she's made yet. It's actually a lie. I can't find out I can't tell from the soundbite list which one it is. Can you guys roll the one, which is obviously the lie about which White House she's speaking for, which was told on Morning Joe today, because let's keep in mind that the name of her book is Independent. Give it to me again, Steve. Independent. And then Inside a Broken White House. Okay, so that's her title. A look inside a broken White House. Watch this.
Right here in the subhead is a broken White House. And if it's not questions about his health, what made it a broken White House?
So the broken White House is about this current moment.
Okay.
So I talk about the story of my personal side of the story of what happened and what I saw as White House press secretary. I think I can speak to it more in a different way, more personally even than most people.
So tell us what you saw day in and day out.
And so the broken White House is the White House that is currently in, obviously has the administration, the Trump administration, and what I'm seeing.
Do you believe that? She now wants us to believe that when she refers to a broken White House, she's talking about the Trump White House, even though the subtitle of the book is An Inside Look at It. Since when is she inside the Trump White House? This is an obvious lie to try to minimize the blowback she's getting from Team Blue for her inane book in which she says she's leaving the Democrat Party because she's so mad about what they did to poor Joe Biden. So now she's trying to distance herself from her printed criticisms of the Democrat Party by saying what she's really arguing is this current White House is the broken one. How she got inside, nobody knows, Stu.
Maybe she created a tunnel before she left and she climbed back in and saw all of these things from the inside. We don't know. We haven't read the book yet, Megyn.
She's like the Louvre bank robbers, or the Louvre robbers, right? She's got her ladder. She broke in some window. She's inside peering at Trump and Melania. I don't think so. She's not clever enough.
Apparently that's what it is. I don't know, because she was not inside the White House under Donald Trump. And of course, you're right. This is just another justification. And, it reminds us all of the Karine Jean-Pierre experience, which is she was uniquely
like it's a ride
bad at her
Disney.
job. Yeah, it is. It was. It was a very scary, terrifying ride. She's uniquely bad at the job that she held, right? Like, I don't know. Maybe there's something in our society she could do well. I can't identify what it would be, but there might be something that she could do. As a spokesperson, she is legitimately horrible at this job. I mean, you remember she was reading constantly every single note that she would say when she was speaking to the press anyway. And to see this now where she doesn't have those talking points, she can't read out of her own book, I suppose, when she's on the air. She's sort of like, she has to regress to just whatever thought pops into her head. And as we've seen, there's not a lot of those. There's not a lot to choose from. It gets generated by that brain. And so what she does, I think, is important to highlight what you hit at the beginning. She winds up just identifying herself, right? Like when she can't speak to the actual truth, she just says, I'm black. I'm LGBTQIA2+. Think of all the things, all the different ways that you can look at me and look at my behavior and identify. I'm a woman. It's all about how she identifies herself rather than the substance of what she's saying, because there's almost never substance in what she's saying.
It's like the sort of the comedy of force field, we're like, You can't touch me.
Yeah.
So she just starts out with the protective force field, black woman, and then she drops in queer, which, I mean, what the hell is that anyway? Queer's out. It's out. Even the kids are rejecting it now. We just saw that study that like the young kids on college campuses have rejected queer. Sorry. You're going to have to go back to making the Q just questioning, which also doesn't deserve its own letter. It's really just LGB. All right. You're going to have to pick one, Karine. Seems like L for you. for many reasons. But she's got to go with queer. Here's just one example. This is her on Morning Joe, another shot. 3.
And for me, as a Black woman, as a person who's also LGBTQ, I feel as if those communities that I am part of largely get taken for granted. And I see that today in groups that are being thrown under the bus for a short-term win. And it is not the big tent party that I loved and enjoyed and was part of and fought for. Mm-hmm. And so for me, I want to start a conversation with how do we fix this? The system is indeed broken. The two-party system is not functioning in the way where our democracy is being protected right now. I feel as if the Democratic Party right now is too timid. They're not speaking up. We need to be, they need to have a strategy and be really clear about how they're moving forward in this moment.
No one knows what you are talking about. Even your leftist comrades have no clue. They want to give you the benefit of the doubt. They want to agree with you. No one knows what you are saying. Stu, let me give you another one. Similar messaging over here on The View. Everyone's confused. Here it is, 2B.
There were 7 million people that showed up at the No Kings rally. Mm-hmm. It grew by millions from the first to the second to the third. Yeah. Where's the Democratic Party in doing the same and peaceful protesting? Yeah. Why are there not more lawsuits from the Democratic Party? Mm-hmm. They need to take action on behalf of the American people, the people who are fearful. And it's not throwing us under the bus. It's not throwing Black women under the bus. It's not throwing LGBTQ community under the bus. It's not throwing migrants and immigrants under the bus. It's saying, no, you know what? I just remembered, we are a big tent party. Right. And it is about your moral compass in this moment, not about politics. Mm-hmm. And you have to bring the country with you. Mm-hmm. And
oh my God, she's such an idiot.
2026, 2020. No, we need to focus on right now.
She's so dumb. She's clearly auditioning for a role on The View. She desperately wants it because, I mean, that is about her IQ class. And she accurately predicts she won't be getting hired anywhere else. But what do you mean can we just re-roll the beginning of that? Like, does she think the Republicans held the No Kings rallies? Let's just listen to the beginning of that one more time.
There were 7 million people that showed up at the No Kings rally. Mm-hmm. It grew by millions from the first to the second to the third. Yeah. Where's the Democratic Party in doing the same and peaceful protesting? Yeah. Why are there not more
What is she saying? Okay, that's it. We heard enough. Does she not know that was Democrats? Like, and then she keeps saying that they're throwing, now if she just stuck to they're throwing the trans community under the bus, well, I wouldn't understand that either because they're actually clinging on to the trans community like their lives depend on it. But there are some Dems, at least, like Bill Maher, saying we've got to move on from boys and girls sports. This is not a good issue for us and it's morally wrong, and stop with the transing of children. What her argument is that they've thrown Black women in particular under the bus. Now, if you're making the case that they take Black women and their vote for granted, I'll give her that. That's true. But how exactly have they thrown them under the bus? Like, her big thing seems to be, I'm leaving because they're throwing minorities and LGBTQ and women under the bus, and also because they're not having enough No Kings rallies like the Republicans do.
That was a really good attempt at a translation. I don't know if that's actually what she was going for. It was bizarre. I think my favorite part of the clip had to be the 4 people who clapped for her point, which there's like no one there's not a warm embrace as every other person who's on the left that comes onto the View. Whenever they say anything, they all clap. Like 4 people clap, and it's just awkward and silent. Her point doesn't make any sense, obviously. And when she's talking about, you mentioned her wanting to get a role in The View. What a perfect place for her intellect to settle. It is the perfect intellectual environment for Karine Jean-Pierre, who never says anything of value. There's nothing there of value. Her point, when she came out with the book title, The Independent thing, there is an inherent theoretical interest in that type of moment, right? When we've even seen people on the right who didn't like either, for various reasons, didn't like something that went on when they served in a previous administration. I mean, one of the people on The View has that backstory, right? And the left loved it. They ate it up. Oh my gosh, she was in the Trump administration. Now she's left the Trump administration. She's come to some new realization about the world. And that's, at some point, could theoretically be interesting to someone. If she was coming out and saying, gosh, we handled the Biden incoherence problem really poorly, and it was because of pressures here, there, and everywhere, maybe somebody, at least on the right, would be interested in what she's saying. Her independence point seems to be, part one, they were too mean to Joe Biden. Like, the media was too critical of Joe Biden. The party was too tough on him when they allowed this man to almost get this, to certainly get the nomination and almost be the candidate on the ballot for the presidency when he was completely incoherent. The last thing in the world they did.
Right. But of course, I know you're making your point there, but just to be clear to for the audience, her point is they were too mean to Joe Biden in notwithstanding how competent he was, forcing him off the ticket. That's why she says she's leaving the Democrat Party, which makes no sense whatsoever, nor to any of her other points. She is also dishonestly defending the lack of mental acuity. The soundbite we played on AM Update today had her actually scoffing at Tim Miller on his leftist podcast. We have it. She's scoffing at the notion that Biden didn't speak to the press a lot and made no sense when he did. Look at this. Stop 5.
We did have legislative wins.
Sure,
and
but he didn't talk about him that well, though. He couldn't talk about them. He wasn't campaigning.
No. Wait. First of all, he did talk about them. Whether it broke through or not, he did. Tim, he did talk about.
I mean, he talked way less to the press than Donald Trump does. Way less. And he wasn't out there at all. He wasn't good off the cuff. He wasn't doing press conferences. Let's just be real. Like, he didn't do night events.
Tim, that's not
right
true.
on.
Tim, you're conflating all of it. That's what you're doing. No,
you're a liar.
First you're telling me he didn't talk well about it. Then you're telling me he didn't talk at all.
He didn't do either. He didn't talk very often, and when he did, it wasn't very good. He sounded very old.
Maybe you weren't paying attention to what we were doing at the White House. But
I paid attention. I'm with you on the policies. I'm talking about his performance.
The president spoke to the American people a couple times a week. He traveled and did domestic travel and talked directly to the American people.
He traveled. Okay. He traveled. She's such a liar. She actually wants us to accept her as, quote, an independent. Like, she's left the party system. Now she's going to be a hard truth teller, Stu. She can't even admit that. She actually wants us to believe that he was out there speaking to the American public regularly, dealing with the press, dealing with the people directly. And you can tell she's nervous and that she's lying because she won't shut up to let a friendly Tim Miller even make his points. She just tries to talk over him and shame him with the Tim, by the way, Karine Jean-Pierre, back off of the camera. All right. If you're going to be an independent media, you're going to need to understand, do not be on top of the camera. It's uncomfortable and awkward for everyone, for the love of God. So in any event, her spinning, which she tried to do as, every day as a White House spin master, continues. She's the same paid liar she used to be, except without the money.
Yeah, and she's just bad at it. I mean, as you point out, yes, she's trying to overtalk Tim Miller there, but you could tell she's lying when she's talking, period. This is all she does. It's the only thing she knows how to do, and she's bad at it. You look at that whole situation, another one of her big independent moments, apparently, is she's upset at the way that Democrats were not pro-LGBTQIA2+ enough. Like, there's a lot of ways you can look at the 2024 election. You can come up with a lot of different criticisms. A lot of pieces of analysis have been done on this. It's really hard to come up to believe that the problem the Democrats had was that they didn't embrace transgendered people enough. That's a bonkers thought.
Who would listen to her? What politician on the left is going to be taking this absolute nitwit's advice to heart? They all know. Karine, I've got to tell you something. I'm sorry. No one on your side is going to say it to you. I'm going to tell you the truth. They all think you're an idiot. That is why you were ignored repeatedly off every time. That is why you feel so disempowered and like they are not prioritizing Black women. They actually do like Black women within the Democratic Party. You got to give them that. Just not you. Sorry, just not you. You're too dumb. Everyone knows the only reason you got that job is for the two things you keep mentioning about yourself. I'm Black and I'm queer. That's it. That's all you have to offer. And now literally no one wants to take your advice or your thoughts on anything. They gave you the courtesy of these interviews to promote your book because you're on Team Blue, but no one can believe how inane all of your comments are. You've either pissed off the Democratic Party or you've confused them. You've definitely confused us. Here is Karine Jean-Pierre actually having the nerve to take a shot at Caroline Leavitt, who I think it's fair to say is the GOAT of press secretaries. The nerve. Watch here.
Because they don't seem to understand, this is the Trump White House, that they don't work for just one man.
Yeah.
They work for the American people.
Yeah.
It is about coming together about a common good.
Yeah.
The White House press secretary is not about doing online trolling.
Right.
It is not. It is an honor and a privilege to have that job and to speak on behalf of the most powerful person in the world. And there is a level of respect for the freedom of the press.
Right.
Even if you don't if you disagree with them.
Yeah.
And that is what that whole back and forth when you see in the press briefing room is about. It shows that we believe in democracy.
Yeah.
It shows the world, not just here, but the world. That the press is going to do what they need to do to hold us accountable, and we're going to do what we need to do to communicate to the American people about what we're doing.
You had James Rosen ejected from the White House briefing room for 8 months for asking one question about Joe Biden's mental acuity, which was the political story of the decade. And one reporter asked one question about it. He was ejected for the better part of a year from ever asking another question again. You coordinated with reporters by actually submitting questions in advance quite clearly to the White House. We saw them written out and then funneled them to an enfeebled Joe Biden, who then worked cosplaying with the reporter as though something real was happening. You reportedly had meltdowns, Karine, according to White House staffers speaking out to Politico and others about you, when questions were asked that you hadn't been given in advance in any interview. That's how inept this person is. And then, Stu, the nerve to try to lecture Caroline Leavitt on staying truthful from the White House podium. Let me just take you for a little walk down memory lane. Here's June 17th, 2024.
Yeah, and I think you all have called this the cheap fakes video, and that's exactly what they are. They are cheap fakes video. They are done in bad faith, and some of your news organization have been very clear, have stressed that these the right wing critics of the president have a credibility problem because of the fact checkers have repeatedly caught them pushing misinformation, disinformation, and so we see this, and this is something coming from your part of the world, calling them cheap fakes and misinformation. Instead of talking about the president's performance in office, and what I mean by that is his legislative wins, what he's been able to do for the American people across the country, we're seeing these deep fakes, these manipulated videos, and it is, again, done in bad faith.
My head hurts. Go ahead, Stu.
They all now will admit, outside of Karine Jean-Pierre at least, that those were lies, that all of this stuff was happening. We were right the entire time we were saying it. And we were supposed to be the bad ones. We were the evil conspiracy theorists. We were the people who were going against the truth. Now, most of the time there, she was reading that response. Honestly, for most of her time in office, there was no real reason to have a press secretary when we could have had Siri do it and just read the text to us every single day. But it's funny to look at this. Now I'm not a big believer in conspiracy theories, Megyn, but I will let you in that I do believe one conspiracy theory, which is I believe Karine Jean-Pierre has that job specifically because she was hand-chosen by Jen Psaki to make Jen Psaki look good. I think because you think about Jen Psaki right now, you think, in comparison, she was actually pretty good. That's how, every time I bring this up, that's what people say. They're like, oh yeah, she was all right. No, she wasn't. She wasn't good either. But in comparison to Karine Jean-Pierre, she was such a mastermind that I think she put this person in for not only, of course, fact, and I don't know if you're aware of this, Megyn, that she's a black woman who's LGBTQ.
Yes.
That's part of it. But also, I think this was a long-term plot by Jen Psaki to make Jen Psaki look good.
It's exactly how like the first wife hopes the husband's second wife turns out to be a total shrew. Every woman wants that when she gets a divorce. Like I not me, I'm friends with my ex-husband, but that makes perfect sense. She had to search the world around to find somebody dumber and more dishonest than she was. And she stumbled onto this girl. She was like, cha-ching, pay dirt. There was more denials about Biden's mental acuity. I don't have any more appetite for it. But then she decided on The View to rip on Trump's adding a ballroom to the White House. Now, can I tell you something? I'm kind of shocked there isn't a ballroom already in the White House. I don't know the White House that well, but aren't you kind of shocked there's not already a ballroom? Like, there should be a ballroom. Like, he's hosting dignitaries. They can have dancing. They can have something, I don't know, like, if you have a ballroom, then you can have a very large gathering in the winter months inside and have tons of press and open it up to more of the people. I'm thinking about just when we went for Charlie's Presidential Medal of Freedom, which was a week ago today, we had it in the Rose Garden and we barely fit in the Rose Garden. That was outside. Inside the White House, it'd be great to have a very large room so you could have more people. That's a plus. That's something every president can use. And that actually will, I think, be a boon to the people. But Karine Jean-Pierre is unhappy about it. It's not costing the taxpayers one dime. He got a bunch of private funding for it, which I think most taxpayers would say, cool, in response to. She thinks it's corrupt. Here she is on that.
I feel like he's been president for 20 years.
No. It's exhausting. That's the point. That's the point.
You're completely different. So what are your thoughts on the demolition?
So, so the People's House is basically being sold to the highest bidder. Yeah. It is corruption at its core. And I heard someone say this when I was backstage. It could not be, there's no greater metaphor right now than what's happening right now in this country than watching Donald Trump take a wrecking ball to the White House.
Yeah. Kind of obvious. Yeah.
Okay. She's very upset about the White. Let me just tell you something, okay? I read this on X earlier today. Teddy Roosevelt built the West Wing. Taft made the executive office oval. FDR added the entire East Wing and included an indoor pool for himself. Truman gutted the entire White House. Nixon added a bowling alley. Obama added a basketball court. And Trump is adding a ballroom. Why is this? Why are we having such a meltdown? What is it? I mean, like, where was the meltdown over the basketball court? Why did we have a meltdown when Truman gutted the White House? Like the whole thing? Each president adds something. No one's destroying the East Wing for it never to be rebuilt. He's in construction. He saw a need. He found a way to fund it. And now every president who ever lives there will have an additional space in which to hold events, Stu.
Yeah, it's funny because the point of like, I can't think of a better, personification of what's going on than taking a wrecking ball to the White House. First of all, I don't know who she heard it from backstage. It's funny that she's now admitting that she doesn't even have her own thoughts.
It was on Scarborough this morning. She heard it on Morning Joe, and she refused to give attribution.
Yeah, every left-wing person has tweeted something like this. I've seen that picture on Twitter 100 times already, and but that's not where he's stopping, right? In some ways, it actually kind of is a good microcosm of what Trump is doing right now. He's actually making this bigger and better. He's trying to grow it and making it bigger and better. And you're right, there's a massive use for a ballroom. I was talking to Glenn Beck earlier today. I'm in his studios here. I know you're appearing with him in Fort Worth here in the coming days.
Yeah, this Saturday.
And you should get him to
go buy your
Saturday.
tickets at MegynKelly.com.
I already have mine, Megyn. I don't know what you're talking about. I already have
Awesome.
mine. But you should get him to tell this story because he was with Trump in the White House and they're walking around. He's showing him, and he took Glenn on a tour of the White House and mapped this entire thing out to him, the entire ballroom, where it was going, how he was going to use it. It's fascinating. And, Donald Trump looks at this not because he likes things that are big and gold. I'm sure he does like that, obviously, at some level. But what he really likes about this type of stuff is he likes to project power. Look at the way he's handling the people in the Middle East. He's able to speak their language in a way that previous presidents have not. And he's getting results with that. When these people come to the White House, he wants to be able to project American power. He knows how they see these things, and he's trying to apply it here. I think that is not just some, Trumpian justification. It is legitimately what he's trying to do. And I think look, basketball courts and bowling alleys, every president makes changes to the White House. These are massive changes. Like, you're going to notice it when you look at the back of the White House. It is like a whole new White House is being built next to the old White House. It is a major, major change, but it will be very useful for presidents in the future, and it will do something. It will communicate something to the rest of the world. We're not in decline. We're not in managed decline. This is the golden age. This is what he wants people to believe about America, not just Americans, but the people that come over here that he has to have, deal in diplomacy and negotiations with. It's all part of, I do believe, an actual strategy here. And I think, honestly, future presidents are going to find it quite useful as well.
Yes, I guarantee you, if we get a Democrat elected next time around, God forbid, that person's not going to undo it. Even if they could get the private funding to undo it, they're not going to say, let's get rid of that terrible ballroom. They're all going to love having it. There's going to be concerts at the White House. There'll be balls at the White House. It'll be fun. It'll be something festive. And sure enough, it'll be someplace to entertain foreign dignitaries who literally are lining up for photo ops with our current resident of the White House. When Trump went over to the Middle East, they were waiting in a red rope line to have their picture taken with a fellow leader, Donald Trump. So yes, he does want something grand at the White House to help show off American power and also just to entertain in. I mean, this is his business. You would not know that's all this was if you were just to watch, let's say, The View or Morning Joe. Just take a look at SOT 33B, which happened before her comments there.
Okay. Okay. That is not your building.
Correct.
You don't own that building. That would be like me going over to Trump Tower and saying I'm going to build a disco. They've wanted a disco in Trump Tower for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
And so, come on, man.
You
don't
laughter.
own that building. That is the people's building. You don't own it.
Let's sing it. Let's sing it.
What? You don't own it. You cannot take it down. You don't own it. Take your behind to another town.
Very good.
Oh my God. How is that show still on the air? It's so fake. The people doing fake laughs at that non-funny business, actually pretending Whoopi is still a comedian who can make us laugh. The bad singing, it's not clever. There's nothing clever about. Maybe KJP will get a job there. It's just so dumb. It's the dumbest programming on television. And the freak out, right? You don't own it, right? Okay, did Barack Obama own it when he added a basketball court? Did whatever. It didn't always have the bowling alley. These are additions that presidents wanted for their own enjoyment and for the enjoyment of, future presidents. What, did you freak out then? Okay, so the facade of the White House is changing on one part of the building in the back, not the front, iconic front, to add something that we can all use at zero cost to all of us. That he can just do no right. That's the bottom line, Stu. No matter what he does, it's wrong.
Totally true. You're right. And, you kind of think about those other situations you're talking about. The president has a real wide leeway to kind of do whatever he wants in the White House. This is, I would have thought there to be this big process and we'd have this vote or whatever. That's not really what happens. When the president's there, they get to alter it as they would like to, especially if they're not making American taxpayers pay for it. But one of the differences between all of those things you described and what Donald Trump is doing it's those other things were for the president. Right, like those other things were for, you would play basketball. I don't get to go play basketball on the basketball court. I don't get to go bowling inside the White House. Those are things that the president wanted. And, I don't necessarily begrudge them for having those things. It's good that he has a place to get some exercise or whatever. But like this is being done quite clearly for the country. Quite clearly for the president to be able to have some operational availability to be able to have these large balls in a place that is right there and convenient to the president of the United States, who, by the way, whenever he has to go anywhere, it's a complete nightmare when it comes to security and everything else associated with it. So like this is something that future presidents will be able to use, and it will hopefully be used to positive effect for the actual country. I know Barack Obama's jump shot is important to the rest of the nation. I'm sure the Roosevelt bowling average went up after he was in the White House. Those things aren't really particularly important to me. The fact that Donald Trump could be holding an event that might raise money for charity, that might have an effect toward an ongoing negotiation with a world leader, like those things actually might benefit the country. And
maybe he wants to have some fun.
Maybe. It's a big room,
it's like
for fun. But
everybody entertains in their own way. But there is no place right now in the White House to have like a huge gathering. There are certain rooms. I've been in many of them, but not all of them. On the first floor, you always see them at the White House Christmas party. And there has been dancing at the White House because I remember the video of John Travolta and Lady Di, Princess Diana, back in the day, which I think was at the White House. My point is simply that dancing at the White House is fun. Why don't we have an appropriate space for it? Why is this a bad piece of news? This actually could be a lovely addition. It's not like he's building a water park. He's building something that makes sense for the space. But I mentioned Scarborough, who is going off about it. He ripped on it this morning saying, he's destroying the White House. And that's not all we heard from Joe Scarborough this morning. He's very upset about the lawfare that President Trump's DOJ is unleashing on people like Comey and Tish James. Take a listen to his very cautious, very prudent warning for us all here, Stu.
What I've been warning Republicans about, because they love to say, we're owning the libs. No, you're taking a hammer to the 2027 and 2029 version of yourself, a ball-peen hammer, and you're hammering yourself in the forehead. Like the things they are doing now will be used against them by a progressive president or an independent megalomaniac who is a billionaire who becomes president of the United States. They are setting precedents for an all-powerful president, which they're fine right now because it's their guy doing it. But as you write in Axios, they're setting precedents that rip to shreds the constitutional norms that they've gone around yelling about for 50 years. You pick whatever they were once champions of that they've abandoned. They're hurting themselves. This will come back to haunt them.
This is very helpful to know, Stu. God forbid this could happen to a Republican at the hands of an enraged Democrat-controlled DOJ.
Oh my gosh, I hadn't even thought of this possibility before. I hope I'm glad to see you're not brushing off his important advice. I think if this gets out of control, Megyn, we could see a situation where they try to throw a presidential candidate in prison, that they try to bankrupt him with legal actions.
Surely
I think
not.
they might even try to get him removed off of ballots across the country while he's running. Thank God we have Joe Scarborough to warn us of such things.
We got to call Lindsey Halligan and Pam Bondi immediately to tell them to stop the madness. This could happen to even the president himself, even Donald Trump. Donald Trump could be indicted on leaving office. Just think of it, Stu.
they might even try to raid his house in this scenario. And I know it's outlandish. It sounds crazy to you right now, but think of the precedent that they're setting. It could lead to something just like this.
This is so crazy. It's crazy that they're having these conversations like an alternate universe, because they don't like lawfare suddenly. They're very against lawfare. But there is one thing that we definitely know about the Democratic Party and its representatives, and in particular about Karine Jean-Pierre. Here's what it is.
And for me, as a Black woman, as a person who's also LGBTQ, I feel as if those communities that I am part of largely get taken for granted.
As a Black woman who has walked through the walls of the White House and been part of this party for a very long time, I believe, and this is my personal opinion, that we get forgotten and that by large part the Democratic Party does not see us.
The op-ed that I put out was about my time as White House press secretary in the 2.5 years that I served. And the reason that I waited till the end is because I did not feel empowered or safe to talk about what was going on in my life while I was the White House press secretary. And the reason why is I do feel that when you are a first in the role, whatever role.
How are you a first?
You are not given grace.
I am obviously acutely aware that my presence at this podium represents a few firsts. I am a Black, gay, immigrant woman, the first of all three of those to hold this position.
Great. Okay, wonderful. They're much more comfortable over that space. Stu, I forgot immigrant. I'm not sure how that applies, but okay, let's throw it all in there.
I love that. My favorite part of that particular moment, Megyn, is the fact that she's describing herself as a Black, gay, immigrant woman. And even then, she's reading it. She's actually reading her own skin color from her notes.
Checks notes.
I swear.
White.
If you're listening on Sirius, I
Still
swear that's
white.
exactly visually what happened. It's incredible. And I think she does
it
highlight.
really is funny, the race and even the sexuality. Like, straight.
Yes.
It's right here. I've got it. White.
In case
straight,
you forgot
American born.
which genitals you're attracted to, now she can always read it off a piece of paper and remind herself.
Who had to write
as
it
if
for
that's
her?
an important detail. I
do you think came
hope
up with
she
those
at least
scripts?
wrote it, but yeah, who knows? I find it fascinating though, because it really is a microcosm of how the left thinks about you, right? Like I look at Karine Jean-Pierre not as a member of the Black community or the LGBTQ community or the immigrant
certainly not as a member of the Mensa community.
Or the Mensa community. I think of her as a unique individual idiot. She's not part. It doesn't mean any of the groups she's associated with are idiots. Right. It's that she, in her own individual way, is a moron. And that is what America's about. We're supposed to see each other as individuals and judge them as individuals.
It's true. Like she would look at you as her opposite. She would say, this is my opposite as a straight, white, cisgendered, American-born male. And focus on the gulf that must create between the two of you, how you could never understand her. And clearly she could never understand you. Whereas really the only thing driving the two of you apart are IQ points and politics. And she just wants to, like, it's her one way of feeling more powerful, right? It's like if you would just study harder and get smarter and do better, you wouldn't have to rely on those things that you keep mentioning. You could just go out into this world and never, ever mention those things and be accepted and make it on your own and never have to wonder whether these are the things that are getting you ahead in life. But because you continually rely on them as a crutch, you need them. You can't operate without them, and then you continue to humiliate yourself. That's really what she's doing.
Yeah, it's sort of like the Wonder Woman invisible jet. Like she thinks she gets in the jet and turns invisible and she becomes invisible. But in reality, you can still see her kind of floating through the sky. And that's what it is. Like she uses that as a cloak, right? Whenever she doesn't have anything to say, whenever she can't argue herself out of everything, she starts going into which letters she's associated in the alphabet with. When in reality, everybody can see through that. And she's particularly bad at hiding it. She doesn't have a lot of thoughts that add up to anything. And so she kind of always has to fall back on the same things. And if you can kind of see people as not members of groups, and that's collectivism, right? It's the same, it's different, but it's the same core as, let's say, racism or, sexism. When you see people as members of groups, you wind up with these broad generalizations and you don't treat people the way that you should. It's not the idea that the Democratic Party didn't think enough about these groups is just completely insane.
It is amazing.
It is like the exact opposite of
It's the only
reality.
group they care about.
Yeah, it's the only thing they ever talk about. They're always wanting to have another conversation about gender or sexuality or skin color. It's all they ever want to discuss.
How do we get Ketanji Brown Jackson again?
Ideas.
How do we get Kamala Harris? How do we get Karine Jean-Pierre? We all know because Joe Biden told us explicitly why those people were chosen and what for. No, it's her like pretending that her little invisibility cloak somehow shields us from seeing how stupid she is or from being able to see like the real Karine Jean-Pierre. It all I can think of is the line from the movie, I'll find you. Does anyone know what that movie's from? Anyone? Can you name that, Stu? Oh, yeah, Steve Krakauer's got it.
What is it?
But I'd find you. It's from Ilsa Fisher, Wedding Crashers.
Oh, gosh, yeah, gosh.
Yeah,
classic,
Sacha Baron
classic.
Cohen's wife and also an independent actress in her own right. And by the way, the answer to yesterday's trivia, where my lines were from, was Overboard, the classic, with Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell. They couldn't be more adorable. I have lines every day. I'm a short, fat slut. That was yesterday's. And also, I can't do any of these vile things and I wouldn't want to. That's Goldie. So anyway, there you go. I gave it away from today. Wedding Crashers was our trivia. Steve Krakauer, speaking of whom, since he got the Wedding Crashers trivia correct, I'm going to play his favorite soundbite. He insists we not move on from the mental acuity. He insists that we play KJP on Stephen Colbert, and he is the executive producer of this program, so I will do him this solid. Stop 4.
I saw a guy who I had not seen backstage at the benefit that I did. It seemed like a dramatically different person. And at 81 years old, that's not entirely unexpected. You can imagine why people got so worried.
No one is saying that he didn't age. I'm talking about, did he have the questions that I was getting, the mental acuity? Was he able to govern? And the man that I saw nearly every day was someone who was engaging, understood policy, and was always putting the American people first.
I don't think anybody questioned his heart or his policies, but it takes more than that to be the president of the United States. And in a moment of great pressure on stage, we saw someone shock us and worry us. And nothing could assuage that worry. So I don't think it was necessarily a betrayal of Joe Biden as other people saying, we don't think we were shown the Joe Biden that you saw.
I saw every day a really ugly assault on someone who had 50 plus years of experience and who, again, objectively had done a good job as president of the United States. And it was heartbreaking to see that type of behavior.
What happened was the debate performance. Everything is downstream of that.
And no one is saying that the debate performance wasn't shocking, wasn't a disappointment. No one is saying that.
Disappointment is such a light term.
I use your words.
It was harrowing.
I use your words.
Okay, look, listen, we're never going to agree on this.
We're not.
Oh my God. That it's just lying liars who lying. That's what they're both lying. It was all about the debate, Stu. No one knew when he saw him at a $25 million fundraiser in March, which last time I checked is 3 months before June. He had no idea. There was no evidence of mental infirmity whatsoever. And of course, he's talking to the person who stood there at the White House press lectern saying, cheap fakes, cheap fakes, cheap fakes, lies in which he participated. But he's up there like, I had no idea. How could you have let us down around the debate? And she's sweeping large, like, bad night, but just old. These are all lies. The Democratic Party is mean. It's amazing the amount of dishonesty.
Oh my gosh. And he had the lightest touch possible with her, trying to convince her and tell her exactly what to say to make everything okay. Yeah. And she tries to blurt something out, which was the same line she was using back in the day. And you hear the audience, there is legitimately exactly one person who claps for her answer. I think Jill Biden was in the audience. That's the only explanation to that moment. But gosh, just another terrible performance from someone who's made a career of it.
Is it any wonder, like, the Democrats are so misled? Best Joe Biden ever, and nothing, not a scintilla of mental acuity problems prior to the debate. It was the debate. No, there were none. It's just a mean Democrat party that got rid of a totally firm, albeit somewhat elderly. These are all lies. They're all lying to you nonstop. And that's just on this one issue. Imagine what else they're lying to you on. All right, stand by, Stu, because there's a lot more to get to, but we got to take a break first. Who doesn't want energy, metabolic, immune, and skin support? Meet Peak, a luxury brand transforming wellness. Their science-backed botanicals, minerals, and supplements support sustained energy, doesn't that sound nice? Metabolic function, and more. Peak is proud to introduce Sun Goddess Matcha. It's an organic ceremonial superfood blend that can redefine your daily ritual. Crafted from the purest tea leaves, it provides a smooth, sustained energy for a calm mind and a radiant glow. The nutrients in their matcha can help curb sugar and hunger cravings, making it easier to stick to your wellness goals. This ceremonial-grade matcha is 100% organic and grown in a pristine valley, ensuring that you get a clean, pure cup every time. Unlock your healthiest glow and feel the difference. Get up to 20% off for life, a complimentary gift, and explore Peak's clean, pure ingredient wellness rituals at peaklife.com/Megyn. That's PIQUE life.com/MEGYN. Try it and glow from the inside out. It's finally here. Megyn Kelly live in Texas with your favorite all-star guests, Donald Trump Jr.
There's a true seismic shift going on right now. Watching the Democrats, it's amazing that they're so far out of touch.
Len Beck.
It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to be making a major announcement with her. I'm making a major pivot point in my career.
Jesse Kelly.
They stand up and they tell people, Hitler's coming, Hitler's coming, Hitler's coming. And you have all these single women on anti-anxiety meds freaking out. Oh my gosh, the world's going to end. These people get lied to repeatedly, and all they do, maybe it's a Democrat thing, is bend over and say, thank you, sir, may I have another?
Emily Jashinsky. The Rapid Response Choir.
Across Maryland, I'm gonna let it shine.
I don't want to sound racist, but I sometimes really hate white people, Megyn.
Len Greenwald.
The only time I ever see clips of Michelle Obama is when you force me to see them.
The way you're chewing makes me want to smack you upside the head.
I watch that with my mouth agape. This is real contempt and hatred in a marriage.
Mark Halperin.
I'm hungry. I could use some salad.
I've got it for you right here.
One of the reasons I wrote this book, Rachel, is there are actually a number of reasons.
Please, I would like a light vinaigrette.
And Link Lauren.
I will do my Jasmine Crockett impression during the show, I promise.
Yeah, you ain't got to believe me. Just go Google. You'll find some of it.
Sugarland, San Antonio, Fort Worth. It's going to be so much fun. So go get your tickets right now before they sell out. MegynKelly.com. I can't wait to see you. On the show yesterday, we spent over 20 minutes going over all the vile moments from Saturday's No Kings protest, which Karine Jean-Pierre seems to think was by Republicans, that legacy media seemed to miss in their coverage. They thought it was patriotic. It was about the Constitution. But apparently 20 minutes was not enough because more keeps surfacing and they need to be highlighted so the record of what happened last weekend is perfectly clear. A disturbing new video was caught by conservative journalist Caitlin Bennett. Caitlin is the host of the Liberty Hangout podcast, and she went to a No Kings protest in Bradenton, Florida. There she is standing under a protest sign that shows President Trump's image with a Hitler mustache on it. An oldie but a goodie. While there, Caitlin encountered an older woman who said she's glad Charlie Kirk is dead.
Members. Whatever his name was.
Charlie Kirk, ma'am?
Yeah, him is horrible. Horrible.
Charlie Kirk is horrible?
Yes, I'm glad he's not here.
You're glad he's dead?
Yes.
Why would you say something like that, ma'am?
Because he was horrible on the campuses, the college campuses. Horrible person.
You know what? I do the exact same thing.
Well,
would you be glad if I would die?
Maybe. I'd have to think about it. What, if she would die? I don't know.
Excuse me?
No, I don't know you, but I didn't know him either. But he was not a good person.
He would go to college campuses
and
he would go to
think he got shot because he wasn't a good person.
I do the exact same thing that he does. I believe I believe, and he is a moderate compared to me. You would be happy if I got shot on a public college campus?
Okay, no, baby, no.
You have got to watch the things you say, because what you just did, that's disgusting. Don't point my finger at her, ma'am. You have got to watch the things you say. That is awful, ma'am. And I don't believe that you actually mean that. I think your feelings are heightened right now.
I don't mean it, but he was a horrible person.
How is he a horrible person?
Because what he was doing to our students, what he was promoting was horrible.
What was he promoting?
Right. Yeah, I'm done with you.
What was he promoting, ma'am?
Be done with her. She's pointing a finger in your face. Yes, you're a horrible person yourself. And point your finger in my face and coming to this peaceful demonstration. Why would and
where we want everyone dead?
Go down the road here.
I am utterly speechless right now. Let this be proof right now. These people are not peaceful. Just because they're not actually committing physical acts of violence right now, they would celebrate if you died.
She's not wrong. I think I would have been done with that woman when I heard the phrase, him is horrible. I think I need to find a new man on the street. If we can't even agree on basic English, it's a no. So, Charlie was horrible, and she's glad he's gone. Then she looked this reporter in the eyes and said she'd be fine with her dying too. Maybe. She kind of waffled on it later. This woman knew nothing about Charlie Kirk. That's obvious. She just saw some out-of-context video of him on the internet, or she read Nicole Hannah-Jones in the New York Times, and that was enough for her. He needed to be eliminated. She's fine with that. And the reporter's right. That same woman and all those No Kings people out there, they'd be thrilled if any one of us on the right had what happened to Charlie happen to us. I mean, it's a very disturbing fact I've just been coming to terms with over the past month. I didn't know that. I genuinely didn't know that. Did not think the depravity was quite that deep. This woman wasn't alone in her sentiments. Here's a photo of a young man at a protest in Georgia. He's wearing the same Freedom t-shirt that Charlie was wearing when he was shot, but this man put fake blood all over it. If you look closely, he made a fake bullet hole in his neck, too. He's got fake blood all over his face. And that medal he's wearing, yeah, it reads, is it Bozo? Medal of Fascism. We're also learning more about the video showing the woman yesterday that went completely viral, gesturing toward her neck as though she's shooting herself. This went everywhere. We had so much feedback on this video online. This woman's a pig. She's a vile pig. And we showed it to you yesterday. What happened was a truck that had a Charlie Kirk banner and flag went by these No Kings protesters, and her response was to celebrate Charlie's murder by repeatedly pretending to shoot herself in the neck and recoil. There was some online reporting that this woman was a teacher for Chicago public schools. As we went to air yesterday, it hadn't been confirmed, but it is true. We contacted the school's principal, but she never had the balls to get back to us. Fox News is now reporting that the principal did send a letter to staff and parents admitting that this woman is an employee in an elementary school, and her name is Lucy Martinez. She teaches K through 8 STEM classes at Nathan Hale Elementary School in Chicago, and it appears she's still employed, though she wants to celebrate the murder of young Republicans. She thinks it's fine if young people who are on the right half of the aisle get murdered, get shot down in their prime. The Chicago Public Schools sending a statement to Fox News that reads, "District follows a consistent process when allegations of misconduct are reported. Employees found to have violated board policy are subject to disciplinary action, but they did not tell us whether this woman is considered a case." for disciplinary action. It seems they have zero concern for any student who might have conservative leanings in Lucy Martinez's classroom. Otherwise, their statement would be clear. Lucy Martinez has had her fat ass fired. That's what needs to happen to Lucy. Her fat ass needs to be fired. Period. She's a pig. And I look forward to her termination, which I do believe will eventually happen. I want her to get fired from that job. I don't want her to get hurt because I'm not a crazed leftist, and right-wingers are not doing that. It's the left-wingers doing that. Our side uses the power of our arguments, which we have honed into being extremely sharp because we've all grown up having to argue with leftists, never mind 0 through college, well beyond. As we talk to half of our country, as we watch the media, as we go to a sports game, as we go to a movie, we constantly have our arguments challenged and shat upon as dumb and worthless, and therefore we've had a lifetime of debate. That's why we're not killing people. Lucy, you seem to be okay with that kind of violence, and I'd love to see you explain why. I'd love to hear the clips you've seen of Charlie that you think justify taking a father away from 2 young children, 2 babies, never mind his beautiful, loving wife. Fuck you, you disgusting cretin. Of course, the protesters wish death on President Trump. Here's a protester with a sign that reads, "Let's go blood clot," alluding to hoping the president's well-known fast food habit does him in. And here's a protester with a sign, "I wish he hadn't turned his head." Along those same lines, this next protester showed up to a protest proudly wearing a shirt that read 8647.
8647, explain it to me. I like the colors.
Kill the son of a bitch.
Kill who?
This 47th president.
But that's the problem with your guys' side. You guys get so emotional, you feel you need to threaten people. But don't worry, we're spreading love, and we're going to fix it.
Fuck you guys.
We appreciate you. God bless.
We're spreading love, and we're going to fix it. Fuck you guys. Back with me now is Stu Burguiere, host of Stu Does America on BlazeTV. I have to tell you, it's depressing to go through these, but I do feel the need to out these people, but it unlike virtually anything else in the news, I usually get kind of mad and I express my anger on the show, which is therapeutic for me. And then I feel better. That what we did yesterday and what we did today is it isn't working. It's left me genuinely disturbed. I don't want to say I'm rattled, but I'm close to rattled by how widespread the desire for our deaths is.
Yeah, it was really shocking going through all the clips and watching this from yesterday because you showed that one woman who got in an argument and she kind of backed off of it and she's like, no, I don't really mean it. And, she's going back and forth and you could tell there's just visceral anger in her in that moment. And I saw a lot of that when watching the No Kings protests. But I think what shook me more was I also saw a lot of clips of people calmly and soberly describing how they would want the president, Charlie Kirk, some random person on the street who happens to be conservative, dead. As if it was part of their sort of intellectual analysis of the situation. They're doing really bad things at campuses and, they're a problem. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. This idea, Jay Jones is a great example because it wasn't I can't stand that person. I wish he'd die. That's something you might say flippantly and it's bad.
That's hyperbole.
It's hyperbole. When you're talking about a philosophy, he had a well-explained philosophy in his second set of conversations with a Republican where he said, well, they don't change their political opinions on policy unless they feel personal pain. And that is increasingly common. I'm with you, Megyn. I don't think I really understood this until the Charlie thing. I certainly knew there were people out there that were terrible people that were wishing harm on others. But to see the celebration of that, to see a guy who's out there doing, even as people on the left, Ezra Klein admitted, doing it the right way, doing politics the right way, out there talking to people and trying to convince them and persuade them of his viewpoint. And to see him get gunned down, a young man with a wonderful family, have him get murdered in front of thousands of people, and for the reaction to that to be not a joke you might make about Abraham Lincoln, but like something in the moments after, joking, celebrating, dressing up, putting a bullet hole. Imagine going through the process of putting a bullet hole in your neck. What kind of person would do that? I know of no conservatives. I know of none. I don't think I've ever met a person in my entire life who would do something like that. Now, I probably have, after watching all those clips. Maybe they're out there doing this on their weekend time at parades and gatherings. But like, I've never met a person in my entire life who would ever think of doing anything like that. That is beyond a terrible person. That's a mental problem. You have a mental problem if you're doing something like that. And wow, apparently there's a lot of those people out there. I hope it's not as widespread, because I feel like when I have conversations with people on the left, they're not like that. I don't think that they're doing that, at least the average person who's a Democrat. But it was really widespread, and I'm not seeing people call them out on their side about it. It seems to be really widespread and common that, look, you played one of the clips, I think, there it was the one where they said, look, well, Hitler, I'm glad Hitler was gone. Hitler died, and I'm glad he's not around, right? Mm-hmm. Like, when you make those arguments and you equate those people to Hitler, well, yeah, I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense in their weird world of looking at things. The better way to look at this is to see people as actual people, fathers. They're not Hitler. This isn't real. All the stuff you've been fed is false. And if you can't identify that, you're going to have a real problem getting through life on a day-to-day basis and dealing with reality. These people have lost contact with all reality. And it's really disturbing. As you walk around, you wonder how many these people you're walking by on a day-to-day basis.
I know. Yeah, you do. And like, I don't know. Are they teaching our kids? Are they operating on us? Are they like, I don't think you have to be fired from any job anywhere if you're a hateful person. But I do think if you're in a position of trust, like you have people's children all day, some of whom may be Republican, you're done. You need to be fired. You've become a distraction inside the classroom thanks to your outside the classroom behavior. I would never, Stu, let my children go sit in the classroom of somebody who had behaved like Lucy Martinez. Never. I would make it my personal mission in life if my kid went to Nathan Hale to get this woman fired. I mean, I would stand out there with my own placard saying Lucy Martinez mock Charlie Kirk's murder. She thinks murder is funny. She thinks it's grand. She teaches our Republican children. Like, I'm sorry. Again, I don't want her to be physically harmed, but I definitely want her to lose her position of trust over children because that's what she deserves. We're going to stay on it to see what the Chicago school actually does, because their statement thus far has only suggested they're worried about threatening emails she's gotten. Like, they're not worried about her at all. They're worried about people sending, I guess, nasty emails to her, which you shouldn't. Do not threaten Lucy, but definitely go march with a placard saying she should be fired. That's totally fair game. She seems to love protests, by the way. Why don't we do that, since she totally supports protests and seems to believe in, quote, consequence culture, which means she should be fired.
It's important to highlight what you just did there, Megyn, which was very easily dismiss the idea of violence. No interest in it whatsoever. This is very easy for us to do because we're human beings and we care about other human beings. I remember back in the Charlottesville situation years ago, there was a guy who went to the Charlottesville rally, which, by the way, was a rally that has nothing to do with anything that I believe. They kept claiming it was this right-wing rally. I had nothing to do with what I believe. But there was a guy there who expressed some like white supremacist type thoughts, and the left went through all the footage, found him eventually on digitally on Facebook or something like that, and were able to get him fired from the hot dog stand he worked at. He worked at a hot dog stand. Wow. And they were able to get him fired from that. And like, as you point out, like if she worked at a hot dog stand, I don't think I would have all that much passion about whether
I would not be calling for her to be fired.
No, but man, Megyn, it does seem to be teachers an awful lot. it does seem to come back to this one profession really regularly when you're talking about these psychotic views. And this is why I am really, super pro school choice. I think parents should have choices and they should not have to pay double in taxes plus tuition to send their kid to a school that has some sanity to it. I think it's a really, really important development that's happened since COVID, and thank God it has. But this is really common. What about this job attracts the strangest people out there that are saying these violent things? And I think it goes back to what you were talking about when it comes to arguing and kind of honing your skills in a rhetorical sense. When you're talking to elementary schools, it's easy to win those arguments. It's if you want to implement your philosophy on a bunch of people who are vulnerable to it, going to elementary school is probably a good place to do it. That is something that we really have to look out for as a civilization, because it's hard to survive that if you poison children's brains with this nonsense for long enough.
It's so dark. So dark. And listen, while Chicago may be heavily Democratic, Illinois still got Republicans in it. And so I really hope that the teachers and or the parents, administrators who are at that school, who at least have some empathy in their hearts for Republicans and what they're going through now, and the loss of Charlie and the fear for their own lives and the empathy they feel for Charlie's widow and family, will speak up about this person and say, this is about decency. It's about human decency. It's not about free speech. It's not about politics. It's about being a human in the face of a national tragedy. Okay, I want to keep going. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals has handed Trump a major victory when it comes to Portland National Guard troops. It's another show we covered on AM Update, which people should be listening to. And it's amazing because the Ninth Circuit, I didn't actually realize how far to the middle the Ninth Circuit has been pulled, Stu, because it used to be hard left. You would know if any case went up to the Ninth Circuit, a Republican president would lose. It was dominated by leftists. But no longer. Now there are 16 Democrat-appointed judges and 13 Republican-appointed judges. Trump had 10 seats to fill during 1.0 on the Ninth Circuit. And so anyway, now it's almost even. So if you're going to draw, the way they do it is you draw a 3-judge panel when your case goes up in appeal from one of the district courts in that region, which is like Seattle, parts of California. And so the odds are decent that you might get a fair panel, even if your name is Donald Trump. And that's what happened. He got 2 Trump-appointed judges and he got 1 Democrat-appointed judge. And the 2 Trump-appointed judges found in his favor, saying he does have the power to send the National Guard in there to protect ICE troops as they are doing their job. And so it's back on his efforts to support ICE in doing their job to clean up Joe Biden's mess. Now, of course, first of all, I repeat myself, but it is Portland and the state of Oregon who are suing Trump, and they are trying to stop it. So they are now asking for an en banc panel of the Ninth Circuit to review, which would be 10 judges. It's not actually the full circuit, but basically most of the circuit would sit and take another crack at it. 11. That could happen, 11 judges. Or they could deny that and it could go right up to SCOTUS, where, we'll see what the Supreme Court says about this. In any event, right now he's gotten a legal victory. And the left that's telling us there's no there in Portland, it's fine, we don't need additional law enforcement, everything's under control, is really having to struggle to explain scenes like this one, which was captured by Nick Sorter on scene in Portland last night. We are looking, for the listening audience, at what looks like pure chaos. It's smoke bombs everywhere. You can see cops that have gas masks on, helmets with night vision goggles and lighted helmets so they can see what the hell they're doing, trying to hold the line against the protesters. I mean, it looks like something out of like Gaza. I mean, I don't know what I'm seeing here, but I'm seeing chaos. And look, Stu, that's the problem, is that the Democrats create those scenes. Then the Republicans, Trump tries to clean them up. Then the Democrats say, there's no problem here. Why are you sending the troops? And they go out and they film like a quiet moment being like, there's nothing going on. But God bless people like Nick Sorter who are going there to show us this is why. This is why. There are bounties on ICE officers' heads. They do this to the officers every night. They protest the building. You're not even safe when you're in there. At some venues, as we know, down in Dallas, they're shooting at ICE officers, actually trying to kill them. So Trump needed this win, and so does the country.
Yeah, and we know one of the parts of the strategy is to be so violent to the reporters that do go to cover it. And we've seen Andy Ngo been beaten, and have real physical consequences from this. And it's happened to many of the people who have tried to cover these incidents. It's funny, one of the central arguments made in defense of not sending the troops to Portland was, well, there was an issue back in June, but now it's over. And now, so it doesn't make any sense to send the people there to actually, protect these employees. And then we see this, of course, last night, which is you can't make it up. First of all, I remember the Ninth Circuit being this leftist. It used to be the joke that we would make whenever we go to the Ninth Circuit. You'd know it was lost. It was a lost cause every single time, and that's a undersold part of Trump 1 that we should all appreciate. What we all remember, the Supreme Court changes that were vitally important, but what he did in the lower levels of the courts really were massively important to the country.
It's also why we need 8 years of J.D. Vance on the back of this term. But keep going. It would be very, very impressive what he would do in that 8 years. The other thing about this, too, is at the end of the day, this isn't the court or the president doing this. This is Congress. Congress gave the president this power. And Congress does a lot of things when they give the power to the president. I oftentimes disagree with what they do there. I'm not a fan of, I'm not a big tariff guy. I don't like the fact that they gave a lot of power to the president to do that, but they did. And it's Congress's role. If they want to withdraw this power from the president, they could do that. Now, he has other pathways to doing some of these things anyway. But this was specifically designed for a reason, and it was given to the president at his discretion, largely, to be able, his wide berth as to why he believes the threat is there. And, the footage you show from last night is evidence of this. If you have to go to a court and say, hey, we believe there's a current emergency, and they say, well, actually, we think that emergency expired 2 weeks ago, you're taking the power away from the president, which is where Congress put it. Well, and the courts, by the way, in listening to that, because we heard the oral argument before the Ninth Circuit, the courts were like, okay, so we're supposed to, as a court, overrule the president who says, no, it's an ongoing danger. It could flare back up at any point. We're supposed to be the arbiters of that?
Right. No, that's not the power that they were given. And also, we found out that, yes, it can flare up. It just flared up right after all of this happened.
It's flaring.
So, I love this standard as well. Like, forget all the legal stuff and all the Congress and all that. Think of yourself as an employee who works in that building. What is your standard of safety? Is your standard of safety, well, I have to wait until I get abused for a few weeks before they help me? Do I get to my car tonight, or do I have to wait and get things thrown at me or maybe shot at me for multiple weeks before someone comes to my assistance?
Or somebody rams me with their car or blocks me in who's armed. Like, how far does it have to go? Because we've seen that in city after city. And it's all at ICE agents. It's like, I don't even really care that much what's happening outside of Portland, but what's happening outside of Portland is bad, as we just showed you. But like, they're allowed to take into consideration what is happening at Portland in places like Dallas, where we've seen this kind of behavior. And across the country, we're seeing ICE officers targeted. I think the basic argument that they're making in the Ninth Circuit, in California, in all of these cases where they're going in against Trump can be summed up by that lady giving the interview to the female reporter. Him is horrible. That's really what it is. That's it. They're not that smart. They just have a serious case of TDS, and it all boils down to him is horrible. That's what we're seeing, Stu.
Yeah, and for people so concerned with pronouns, you'd think they'd know. It's not him is horrible. That's not how the language
irony.
Works.
You're right. All right, wait, I want to get to one other thing, which is there are rumors that the government shutdown could end sometime this week. Why is it ending? I will show you. Harry Enton over on CNN yesterday, SOT 16.
We're talking 20 days into it. In 2018/2019, Donald Trump's net approval rating was already falling. The shutdown was eating into his popular support. It was down 3 points already at this particular point and would fall considerably more. It was very much on the decline. You come over to this side of the screen, this shutdown hasn't eaten into Donald Trump's support at all. His net approval rating is actually up a point. And in terms of his popular support. So the bottom line is this. The first shutdown during Trump's first term, 2018, 2019, was hurting Donald Trump. This one is not hurting him at all. It comes down to the blame game, a game I loved to play when I was younger. Blame Trump for the shutdown a great deal. In 2018/2019, 61%, more than 3 in 5 Americans blame Trump a great deal for that particular shutdown. You come over to this side of the screen, look at this. It's a different world. It's a different world. 48% of Americans blame Trump a great deal for this particular shutdown.
And there it is. That is why they now believe this thing could end as early as this Friday, because the Democrats are losing and the sombrero memes worked and the American public is blaming them, not Trump, for what we're going through here.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a real argument to be made for that. I like Harry Enton. He's like the one guy on CNN I actually like. I'm entertained by, and he has, I think, pretty solid analysis. He's not some big conservative or anything. He's just a guy trying to actually give you the data, and I like that. They should try that approach on some of their other programming as well as being entertaining. They should try that as well. It's interesting to think, because I was thinking about this a little bit. We have this healthcare situation they've been blathering on about. And of course, this is their own program. Obamacare was theirs. They passed it. They said it was going to be the solution. They called it the Affordable Care Act. And what we're talking about going back to in this long-term shutdown debate is essentially Obamacare as passed, right? They passed it, and then they added on a bunch of COVID subsidies on top of that. Their complaint is we're not allowing the pandemic era stuff to continue. Okay. Mm-hmm. And as I think about this, we are a couple weeks away from the deadline of when people are going to start to see these increases in prices, right? They're going to see these bigger bills on their healthcare. And my belief is, and I'm sort of testing the strategy in my head, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, Megyn, because I think there's part of the Democrats that are okay waiting this out because they think they're going to get a more negative reaction when people start seeing those higher bills. And I think they believe it's going to create pressure on Republicans to fold. Now, I don't think Donald Trump is going to fold, but I do think there are people on the Republican side who are going to say, wait a minute, we can't go through this. I'm worried about these polls going. People are giving us negative attention. We have to fold on all of this healthcare stuff. I hope that's not the outcome to this. And I do hope, because I'm not seeing the same coverage of this shutdown that I've seen of every other one I've ever covered. I'm not seeing all the sob stories. I'm not seeing all the single moms who've lost access to some program. I'm not seeing any of that stuff. No, it feels like the Democrats are... Yeah, it's weird. And I don't know if it's because my kind of assumption was Democrats obviously are the ones out of power. Usually that's the side that gets blamed. So maybe that's why the media is holding out. I'm concerned they're kind of just holding their fire back for this to happen in about 10 days. And if we get there, the Republicans, Megyn, they'll fold kind of on anything if the attention hits them the wrong way. No, don't do that. So it's important that we hold the line here. I think Trump will do it, but I do think there is a risk of some of these more, shaky Republicans dropping that line.
I think that's a very good theory. And it reminds me, my audience doesn't think that they don't believe me that I read the emails, but I do read the emails. And one of the viewers emailed about this just this past week saying, I have the same concern that they're going to wait until the prices go up and then they're just going to say, oh, it's all a Republican problem. Meanwhile, these are Democrat policies. These were Democrat increases under Obamacare. All of it is to be blamed on the Democrats. And I don't know. I mean, this White House is better than most at messaging. So I think they probably will be able to message that. But, this White House also had the chance, at least in 1.0, to do something about Obamacare, and it didn't. So, there's plenty of blame to go around. We'll see. I think cutting some sort of a deal is what's good for the country because we can't have these government employees just remain not getting paid. I mean, it's a morale killer. We can't have, some of these jobs actually do matter to us. And look, if you're going to make people do the work, you got to pay them. So that's the way it works. And we always wind up caving. I mean, I think the longest one was like 30 days and change. And so it's going to end before that. Maybe it will be Friday. I'll give you the last word.
I will just say, fundamentally, we have a government that does way too much, And the fact that we can separate our government employees into essential and non-essential employees should give us an indication that maybe we should run a government with only essential employees. Maybe that's a better approach long-term.
That's how we run the MK show.
Yeah, exactly. That's how every good, solid business runs itself, right? You don't have thousands and thousands of employees that you're paying for things that aren't essential. That is bonkers to everybody who runs a business and everybody in the private sector. If we adopted a little bit of that attitude, perhaps we wouldn't run into these problems all the time.
You know, I learned how to do it at Fox, and I will say they did it the right way, at least when I was there, which was only people who are essential, but no one is indispensable. No one. And that's important to remember, too. You know, it's like Fox News went on just fine without me, without Tucker, without Bill O'Reilly. You know, it'd be hard for the Megyn Kelly show to go on without Megyn Kelly. But, you know, look, right now, Charlie's show is going on without him because people are so drawn to his message and his team's doing a great job. In any event, just remember that. That's important to know in any job. It's important to keep only the essential staff, but as essential as they may be, no one is irreplaceable. Stu Burguiere, you're very close, very close. We'd be very sad if you stop coming on the MK show. Please never do that.
I will stay with you as long as you'll have me, Megyn.
Awesome. And we will see you in just a couple of days in Fort Worth. Go buy your tickets,
Yes.
Fort Worth. It's megynkelly.com. And I can't wait to see you. See you, Texas,
Megyn,
this weekend.
my wife,
we kick it off with you.
My
Go ahead,
wife
Stu.
is requiring me to ask you that she has to meet you at this show.
Yeah, of course. Yes.
Okay. All right. We'll get this
I look
done.
forward
This is
to it.
exciting. All right.
The
Thank you so
better
much.
Burguiere. I can't wait.
100% true.
All right. See you Saturday.
Thank you.
All right, coming up, a deep dive on these horrible wind turbines. Are they coming to a city near you? Stand by. Does your family pile on the couch Sunday morning, get cozied up, maybe with some coffee? You might want to add the bubble cuddle blanket from Cozy Earth as part of your plans. It's plush, textured, and then when it's time for bed, that's when Cozy Earth takes comfort to a whole nother level. Their bamboo sheets can transform your sleep. Made from viscose from bamboo, they're temperature regulating and moisture wicking, so you actually sleep cooler. Silky smooth, breathable, and built to last, it is like slipping into luxury every night. Plus, you can try them risk-free with a 100-night sleep trial and a 10-year warranty. Upgrade the place you spend the most time, your bed. Visit CozyEarth.com. Use my code Megyn for 20% off your order. That's CozyEarth.com, code Megyn. And if you get a post-purchase survey, let them know you heard about Cozy Earth from The Megyn Kelly Show. Because home is not just where you live, it's how you feel. Let's go home with Cozy Earth. Now we have a special report for you that we at The Megyn Kelly Show have been working on for quite some time. It is a deep dive into the real impacts of clean, renewable energy that comes in the form of windmill farms. It turns out these wind farms that the Biden administration pushed for are not only aesthetically ugly, but they're harming wildlife and they're toxic, especially whales along the coast of the United States, including in New Jersey, where my family and I spend our summers. Since President Trump entered office for the second time, he's taken major action to stop these wind farms, but the fight is not over. We've been working on this report with a special correspondent, Molly Moran. She's a high school student from North Carolina, a sophomore, who won the opportunity to work with us through a fundraiser I offered at a school here in Connecticut. Somebody bought it for her, thinking that she might enjoy it, and she's a fan of the show, and she and I have gotten to know each other. It's actually been a lot of fun working with her for these past several months. She helped us research and help write a package for the Megyn Kelly Show and brought us some answers. And then she came on set, came up here to Connecticut and sat down with yours truly not long ago about what she learned. Take a look here.
Another beached whale mystery.
The fourth whale death in our region since the start of the year.
Something is killing whales off the Atlantic coast.
The sight of whales washing up on our beaches is haunting enough, but now we can hear what may be driving them to their deaths. Just listen to the underwater sounds captured in the documentary Thrown to the Wind.
Are you kidding me? It sounds like they're like on someone pile drives.
That's loud. And it's 24 hours a day, so it's day and night.
For many environmentalists, that relentless, high-decibel sonar emitted by wind industry vessels is the smoking gun. proof, they say, that offshore wind farms are driving whales to their deaths.
I saw this captain post something. He said in his 20 to 25 years on the ocean, he's only seen one dead whale. I think it was like 2 months ago, he saw 3 in the same day. 3 in the same day.
The North Atlantic right whale has been hit the hardest. Only about 370 remain. And in 2022, NOAA admitted the whales were suffering through an unusual mortality event worse than anyone first thought. Thrown to the Wind exposed the memo's warnings about wind farms.
So when the turbines are spinning, it creates a turbulence on the back end of it. The concern is that it's going to destroy the plankton, which is what the whales feed on.
Warnings from scientists that were ignored. When the Biden administration announced sweeping protections for the Arctic Ocean to safeguard wildlife, there wasn't even a mention of whales in the path of these wind farms. The Megyn Kelly Show regular Michael Schellenberger executive produced the documentary.
What a scandal. I mean, just appalling behavior by many, many people that knew better or should have known better. It's impossible to look at these correlations and not imagine there's some connection.
So help me God. Congratulations, Mr. President.
Then a sea change in Washington.
They're ugly, they don't work.
In January, President Trump kept the promise he made on the campaign trail, halting all new wind projects and moving to stop those already underway.
It's crazy. They're dangerous. You see what's happening up in the Massachusetts area with the whales, where they had 2 whales wash ashore in, I think, a 17-year period. And now they had 14 this season. The windmills are driving the whales crazy.
Just last month, Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy announcing that $679 million in federal funding had been pulled from 12 offshore wind projects, including the massive wind port at Paulsboro, a relief for locals who say the turbines would scar the horizon.
I'm pretty happy about it. I live here year-round, and not something I wanted to look forward to when I go to the beach.
A victory for those fighting to preserve the beauty of the Jersey Shore and much of the Atlantic coast, and for the endangered whales with no other choice but to make these waters their home. All right, so our special correspondent for the day, Molly Moran, is with me. You did all the research behind this piece for us. It's so interesting. I mean, what's happening, that this is like truly disturbing. What made you interested in this?
Well, the first time and only time I've ever seen a whale in person was on family vacation. We went to Mexico a few years ago. We saw this whale and a calf, and it kept like jumping in front, like all playful and stuff. And then the mother was kind of like behind, like huffing at it. And it kind of reminded me of like my sister and like my mom and like how like similar mammals can be. Aww. And it just was so interesting to me.
Totally. I get it. I've been only one whale watch in my life, but you really have a newfound appreciation for them when you see them up close, how big they are. Of course, they're mammals. They seem like many of them very loving. Depends on the whale, I guess. But this documentary by Schellenberger, Thrown to the Wind, like everything Schellenberger does, is really good. What stood out to you the most in that whole thing?
The sound that the windmills are making is kind of like having a jackhammer outside your classroom. So with humans, we can like switch locations, we can communicate over text, but with whales, they only use sound. They completely rely on it. So when like mothers and calves are communicating, they only use sound. They can't communicate, cause them to get lost, and is really impacts their population numbers because they get anxious and it can be like deadly.
That's so sad. We actually have a clip from the Schellenberger documentary, Thrown to the Wind, on that. Let's watch it.
The calf needs the mother for food. The mother's trying to raise the calf. So the mother will expend energy to try to find the calf, will raise the vocalization level, will look around for the calf, it'll swim to its last position. All of these things have been documented. But at some point, both the mother and the calf run out of energy. At that point, if they're close enough to shore, maybe they beach and you find them. If they're out here, they die and they sink.
Okay, so now what the audience does not know is that you and I have been working on this piece together for the better part of a year.
Yes.
You've been doing tons of research, and we wound up narrowing it down in the end to the whale issue, but there's a lot of issues with these windmills. Were you surprised? You were surprised when you found out like the number of things that people object to about them and that the problems they're causing?
I think I was pretty surprised just because it's causing more harm than good, because it's like hurting the numbers of an already endangered species. Like the whales, they only have like 300 or so left of this certain population.
Yeah, we don't have them to spare. So if Donald Trump called you up and said, I'm going to give you the magic wand for the day, Molly, what's the solution to this problem?
The whales are endangered, the wind is not. It is affecting the whales. I mean, to know to what extent it would take like years of research. I think for now we put a halt to using wind energy, at least in this area where it would affect whales.
Yeah, at least in the water where not only does it kill the whales, it ruins the views. There's so many issues. There's toxins in those blades, which are huge and really not easy to dispose of. The list is very long. This is actually very worthwhile. And it's so funny because we started working on this before Trump got elected.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like we knew this was going to be an issue, but we didn't know he was going to come in and solve it.
No, we didn't.
Sorry. So how you're from North Carolina? Are you? Have you done anything on the environment yet in school or no?
We've learned about some environmental science. We had biology last year where we had like a small unit on learning about the environment, and also all through 8th grade was environmental science.
Have they started telling you that we have to go solar and wind all the time and get rid of oil and gas?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. This is the problem with schools today. If that comes back up, now you're going to be armed with better information.
Yes, I will.
Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure getting to know you, and thank you for all your help with this.
Thank you.
Yeah. If you have a desire for a career in journalism, you're off to a great start.
Thank you.
All the best, Molly. Molly Moran, everybody. Future star. She did a great job. That was great. Great job, Molly Moran, everybody. Can you believe sophomore in high school? A lot of poise. Want to dig in further on this with someone who is quite familiar with the dangers of windmill farms, and that is a hero to me, U.S. Representative Jeff Van Drew of New Jersey. Representative Van Drew has held multiple hearings on the impact of offshore wind. He is a fierce warrior against this nonsense. He worked to put an end to these future projects with President Trump. Congressman, welcome to the show.
Oh, it's great to be with you, Megyn. Thanks for having me on.
It's a pleasure to meet you. You have been like a dog with a bone trying to prevent this nonsense, and you're winning. It's so great to get a win. Before we get to the winning, can you elaborate on some of the downsides of these massive wind farms?
Megyn, there are so many. I've been around for a few years. I was a state senator, state assemblyman, and mayor. I've seen a lot of projects. I don't think I've ever seen one project that was so bad in so many ways. And initially, many of us were open to it. We thought of bucolic windmills. These aren't windmills. They're industrial wind turbines. They use lubricants that are dangerous in the water. They are very expensive to run, and your utility bills would go up. Even those that advocate for them will say utility bills would go up, and they've gone up enough already, 2 or 3 times as much as they are already. Bad for the fishermen. That's how I got involved when I spoke to a lot of the fishing industry, much of which is in my district. They knew what it was going to do. They asked for help, and of course, we got involved. They are bad for tourism. They are bad for the environment, national security. They are a danger to radar because they're 1,000 feet tall with red lights on top of it. The list goes on, and most of all, when we are energy rich, and we can be independent and don't need to depend upon anybody, we should be exporting energy. Rather than do that, this administration, as it always did with everything American, reduced it and was going to make us rely upon foreign companies to supply our energy. That would be very expensive. I could go on, Megyn. Unbelievable.
The left wants to paint itself as the pro-environment group, but the truth is these things are terrible for the environment. The blades are like the span of an airplane from wing to wing. They're huge, and they're on each one of these wind turbines. And on top of that, they're full of toxins, which we have no idea what to do with when these things break or are retired.
In Nantucket, some of them got in the water. They had to close the beaches down. They're fiberglass. They're not recyclable. After 15 years, these things are done. And you know what their answer is? They're just going to cut them down towards the base, but they're going to leave the structure in there. They don't even know what to do with the blades. They're dangerous. And we have in my office, one of the things when we had one of our hearings, we brought somebody in from Nantucket, and the display shows the shattered wind turbine blade. And it says, do not touch because it's dangerous. It'll get in your skin. I mean, you're putting that out in our beautiful, pristine ocean, a gift from God, and you're actually doing that. It is just unbelievable. It is the height of hypocrisy. And you know what it's about, Megyn? It was billions upon billions of dollars for rich companies to make even more money. But it was so wrong for America. Again, when we have the energy, better energy than this would ever provide, why in God's name would we do that? Europe, they don't have the sources of energy. They tried it and it's not even working there, but I get it a little tiny bit. And by the way, the whales, they were what saved us. I was a voice out in the wilderness in the very beginning, to be honest with you. President Trump, who is more than just my president, he is also my friend. I got to know him. It's a whole different story how we got to know each other when 7 years ago I changed parties and became a Republican. I was always a conservative, but we talked about this and he said, Jeff, when I get in office, we're going to do something. It was the first day with his executive orders that he did this and put a halt to it. And I'm proud to say, Megyn, some people don't know, our office wrote a good piece of the executive order. That is something I forever will be grateful and forever will be proud as well.
He gave you a huge shout out on Truth Social, giving you all the credit.
Yeah,
and you wound up helping not just New Jersey, because Joe Biden had laid the foundation for these monstrosities to start appearing all over the United States. He had massive goals of spreading them across the United States. Trump shut it all down.
Millions of acres. We're not talking 100 acres, 1,000 acres. They were designating millions of acres to be acceptable and approved for wind turbines. We've already turned that around. That's done. That's been revoked. Now we've got to revoke the permits and we've got to revoke the leases. And we're going to do it based upon the science that Doug Burgum is going to find, the Secretary of Interior. We've worked with them as well. And once they dig in, and the more that people hear about it, you know, when this started, when I very first got involved, they were probably about 75% popular. They're well under 50 now in the state of New Jersey.
And that's these PR campaigns, they work. You know how much my family and I love our dogs. Yes, even Strudwick. I cannot imagine life without them. They've got a great life, but some dogs are not so lucky. And that's why I'm so glad to tell you about Delta Rescue, the largest no-kill, care-for-life animal sanctuary in the world. They have rescued thousands of dogs, plus cats and horses too. They provide all the animals with shelter, safety, and most of all, love. And they've been doing it for more than 45 years now. Delta Rescue relies solely on contributions, and giving can bring tax benefits to you too. Speak with your estate planner about how you can grow your estate while helping animals in need. And check out the estate planning tab on their website to learn more. We love our Thunder in Strudwick, but would like other dogs who need love to find it too. Visit deltarescue.org today to learn more. That's deltarescue.org.
I think windmills are really disruptive. When you talk about the environment, they kill the birds. You want to see a bird cemetery? Go under a windmill someday that hasn't been cleaned out with all the bird carcasses. It's like massive amounts of birds.
Well, they're also a massive eyesore.
Off the coast of New Jersey, they want to build. The people are going crazy not to build them. But where you have them, the whales are washing up on shore.
Right.
So in 50 years, they had one whale come ashore. Now they had like 18 come in the last year.
What is what is happening with the whales? I've read about this.
Well, they say that the wind drives them crazy. You know, it's a vibration because you have those, those things are 50-story buildings, some of them.
Right, and they're
50.
super sensitive to vibrations
they have
and
those,
sounds.
The wind is rushing, the things are blowing, it's a vibration, and it makes noise. You know what it is? I want to be a whale psychiatrist. It drives the whales freaking crazy.
President Trump was mocked for that by the left. It was the interview he gave to Joe Rogan right before the last election, but he was right. And he's been fighting this battle along with our guest, Congressman Jeff Van Drew of New Jersey, and finally winning. It was amazing that on day one of his presidency, he signed this executive order. Clearly, this was important to him. And I'll tell you, just from where we go and down in the Jersey Shore on the summers, the people really are very, very worked up over this. Yes, because of the wildlife, but also it's not a small matter to think of the entire New Jersey coastline, which is a jewel on the East Coast. It's absolutely stunning to have virtually the entire thing marred with these ugly monstrosities that are very, very close to shore. They're so close you cannot possibly miss them. There won't be virtually any stretch of beach that isn't looking at these huge windmills turning and turning. As you point out, I've been to Amsterdam that has the beautiful, cute little quaint windmills. These are nothing of the sort. You point out the size of these things. They're up to 1.5 times the height of the Washington Monument. The life expectancy, 20 to 25 years. You're stuck looking at these awful things as they're killing birds and whales all around you. Who the hell would want this?
It's crazy. Nobody, when they really understood it, nobody wanted it. They were sold a bill of goods. One of the big companies that came in from Denmark, Ørsted, came in and they were giving everybody money. We'll let you build this. We'll do that. Trying to give money to local governments. But once people found out what was going on and how they weren't telling the truth, it changed the tune. We had an acoustics expert that's a bona fide acoustics expert at one of the hearings that I held. And it was great because I had members of Congress come to my district to hear what people were saying about these. But this acoustics expert found that what the government was allowing was unbelievable. They were exceeding all noise limits that would ever be allowed in the ocean, but they didn't care because it was wind turbines. My God, if that had been the oil or gas industry, they would have gone crazy. And they should have. It shouldn't be allowed. And that was what was getting the whales. It wasn't just an accident. And by the way, the whales, when they did the autopsies, they said we had autopsies done and there's nothing there, nothing to worry about. Guess who did the autopsies? People that actually worked for the companies that were doing the windmills. I mean, come on. It was so disingenuous. It was so hypocritical. It was disgusting. It's a bad chapter in American history. And Megyn, like you, I was truly, sincerely frightened for the Jersey Shore and for our beautiful, pristine coast, this amazing area we have. And these people didn't care. It was just about the money. And by the way, your tax dollars, both at the federal level and at the state level in New Jersey, subsidize them to the tune of billions and billions of dollars, and they still had a hard time making a go of it. That's how inefficient they were.
That's the key. No one wants this kind of energy. It gets forced on them by Democrat-elected politicians who then subsidize it and then force it on the communities. So you're both paying for it and you're getting it against your will. It's a bad combo. But can you walk me through what happened in New Jersey? Because we saw the executive order with Trump. We all cheered. But then it seemed like it was only going to apply to wind farms where the permitting process was still underway. And we were worried in New Jersey because the permitting process we thought had already gone through. It was like a late minute Joe Biden. It was like on his way out with his auto pen was like approved. But somehow President Trump managed to stop it anyway. How did that happen?
Well, all of it gets a review now. So, and some of this is in the courts, and we have private folks selling to, suing rather. We also got over $1 million in raised funds for private lawsuits to slow them down. It's such an inefficient, bad industry that when time is their enemy, when you slow them down, they're bleeding money. They're bleeding money and they want more. And I didn't want to skip to one thing just to show you how bad they were. In New Jersey, the democratically controlled legislature and the governor were going to give a subsidy back to the ratepayer because the rates would go up so much more due to these wind turbines to supposedly help them out a little bit. Guess what happened? They were so inefficient that they passed a special law to take the subsidy for the average ratepayer away and to give that to the companies as well. And they did, and the governor signed it. You couldn't make this stuff up. It was unbelievable. Wow. So it's been all so terrible. So now everything's on hold. Now, the Secretary of Interior, Doug Burgum, is going to look at all this, review it all. And I think what I believe that, and I speak to him on a regular basis just to learn what's going on, is that when they find out how bad they are, and I think they know, they're first going to revoke the permits. Those will be revoked. Once the permits are revoked, they then will ultimately revoke the leases. Guess what? We've got a great president for a certain number of years. We got to put a stake in the heart of this Dracula monstrosity of a project, and we've got to end it for good. And that's what we're going to work on. And the president is totally committed to it. I'm doing everything that I can to help. Others are as well. This is a big deal. This really is about America. You know, when you say from sea to shining sea, man, I want those seas to still shine and to still be beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, of all things to ruin, America has these amazing coastlines up and down the East Coast, up and down the West, and, on some of the most beautiful ocean territory that there is. And so why would you ruin them with this disgusting, toxic, killer form of energy that doesn't work and is too expensive? It's crazy. It's a leftist dream that comes at a very, very high cost. So is it possible then, because if it stays in abeyance throughout the Trump administration, that's 4 years where they didn't make any progress. And so what happened, like as a practical matter, like you mentioned, the one that was trying to come to New Jersey, what was it? Orstar? Yeah. Okay. So like as a practical matter, could they wait that long? Like they can't possibly be in a business that is on during a Biden administration, off during the Trump administration, then back on during a Democratic administration? Or do you think these 4 years will effectively kill it?
I think it'll effectively kill it, especially if we revoke the permits and the leases, even without the Megyn. You make a wonderful point, and it's a good point, that literally they are, as I said before, bleeding money. So for them to stay for years and expend all the money that they are, it just isn't worth it. So pretty much, even if we didn't revoke the leases and permits, and I think that we will, they are going to be so far behind the eight ball financially that it really, truly hurts them. And thank God. I didn't even talk about the fishing industry much. Off our coast, the East Coast, we have some of the greatest sustainable fisheries in the world. And another way that the left was diminishing America, not only were we going to rely on other countries for energy, it would have diminished our fisheries a great deal. We're going to rely on them for our food. We already see the Chinese buying farms. Now we're going to have to get all our fish and fish products from other countries because we were going to hurt our fish. I mean, you couldn't make this stuff up. It seems it's so perverse. It's so weird, but it seems everything they do, and I don't want to get into other subjects, but I really believe this. The left, ultra left especially, seems to want to diminish America so that we are so much less than we were and so much less than we can be. It's really hurtful. So we've got to be tough. We got to fight hard, and we got to keep going at it with this and not give an inch. This is a really, really bad in every level and in every way you could possibly think about it.
Well, listen, I thank you on behalf of my community, and I'm sure many others across the United States, for leading the way on this battle. Too many people were not paying attention to it, and there's so many downsides and no upsides. It's such a clear, it's just so obvious what the outcome should be. So God bless you, Congressman. Thanks for coming on. All the best to you.
Right back to you, Megyn. Thank you for the work you do and bringing the truth to people. We really appreciate you a lot.
You let us know if you need us at all. We're here.
Thank you.
All the best, sir. Wow. Thank God for guys like him. I mean, truly, it takes a lot of effort. You got to dig in. You got to become an expert matter in it. You got to fight the power. When Joe Biden was in there, he wasn't able to make much progress, but he was fighting. And then like the seas parted and the sky cleared up and President Trump was elected and made this a priority from day one. This is yet another great thing about having Donald Trump as our 47th president. Thank you for listening. Thanks for watching, and we will see you again tomorrow.